Brian, thank you for coming to Oklahoma. You're a true testament to courage and to valor and to strength, and thank you for being here today.
God bless you.
Well, my name is Ryan Leonard. I'm running for State Attorney General. I'd like to introduce my daughter, Katie, who is here, who just turned 8 years old on the 4th of July. And it's great to have her. We've been crisscrossing this state, as a number of you in this room know. It's great to be back in Lawton. We've been crisscrossing the state for now about 16 months, running for Attorney General. I'm originally from Western Oklahoma in the Panhandle, and have spent a lot of time here in Comanche County. This is a critically important election. This is the first time in 16 years that Oklahoma will elect a new Attorney General. We've only had one Republican conservative Attorney General in the history of the state, G.T. Blankenship. He's the honorary chairman of my campaign. And there are critically important issues, Scott mentioned a number of them, that will face the next Attorney General of Oklahoma, from fighting our serious methamphetamine problem. The Attorney General is the chief law enforcement officer of the state. I'm a former state prosecutor. I'm an attorney. I fought the battles in state and federal court. I also spent 4 years working for former Senator Don Nichols in Washington, D.C. Our meth problem, it destroys lives, it destroys families. I saw it every day working in the prosecutor's office. Just last week in Oklahoma City, we arrested a Mexican drug kingpin. And that drug warlord was in Oklahoma for one reason, and one reason alone. And that is because he left the state of Arizona after they passed the Arizona law. In Oklahoma, as the Attorney General of this state, I will work with the legislature, enforce our immigration laws. We need to pass Arizona Plus in the state of Oklahoma. And I will make sure it's done. Public corruption continues to be a very serious problem in the state. In the last 10 years, we have convicted 107 state and local officials. Absolutely unacceptable. When you violate the public's trust, you need to be prosecuted, and prosecuted vigorously. As the Attorney General of this state, that is exactly what I will do. Scott mentioned some of the things that are happening on the national level. When I announced for this office, now about 16 months ago, we just had a change in administration. And a few short months later, it was becoming very evident that we had a different crowd in Washington, D.C. The health care bill was introduced. I did the research. I was one of the first in the country to actually call for a constitutional challenge by the Attorneys General to the health care bill as the Attorney General of Oklahoma. I will challenge it day one. It is unconstitutional. It's the most intrusive piece of federal legislation that's been passed in decades. And the federal government cannot mandate the purchase of health insurance. Never before has the federal government mandated the purchase of any good or service. They can't start now. That's what the health care bill requires. And we need an Attorney General who will stand in the gap, who will stand as the last line of defense. I've got the experience prosecuting cases and fighting the battles in state and federal court to do just that. And these issues, whether it's the health care bill, the EPA that is trying to regulate carbon dioxide as a pollutant, that will absolutely destroy us here in Oklahoma economically. I spoke to the Farm Bureau last night in Pontotoc County and talk about something that would devastate agriculture and devastate our economy. At the same time, the countries like China and India are taking off. We can't allow it to happen. They don't have the votes in Congress to pass cap and trade, so they're trying to do administratively what they can't do legislatively. We need an Attorney General who will stand up and lead the charge. If I'm the Attorney General of Oklahoma, I will. They're also trying to restrict the hydraulic fracturing of wells, another thing which will devastate us economically in Oklahoma. But the bottom line is these battles will not be settled. They will be decided by the Supreme Court. I'm the only candidate in this race who's prosecuted a case or tried a case. That's really important. It's important to have an Attorney General who can step in day one and fight these battles in court, and that is exactly what I will do. Because I really believe that these are fundamentally, this is a momentous time in our country's history, and some of our very fundamental rights and liberties are at stake. And ultimately, a year ago, I described, in fact, I went to a meeting of a number of Republican Attorneys General, and I said, hey, this health care bill is unconstitutional. Not a one of them had thought about it. These are the same ones. There are 19 states who have now challenged the health care bill. These are the same Attorneys General who are challenging it. A year ago, they hadn't thought about it. The role of the Attorney General is to stand as the last line of defense when Washington, D.C. overreaches its constitutional authority, and we are seeing that in unprecedented ways. And as the Attorney General of this state, I will fight back when Washington, D.C. overreaches. I'll fight for Western Oklahoma. It's important to have an Attorney General who understands agriculture. And we've seen that in the last several years. I grew up working on the farm with my grandfather. It's important to have an Attorney General who understands the issues that face rural Oklahoma. And I do. And I believe in this race I'm uniquely positioned with that understanding. So it's great to be back in Lawton. I think I've got a couple of minutes left here for questions. I'd be grateful for your support on July 27th. We will continue to crisscross the state. Katie's got two brothers who are normally with us on the weekends. But it's great to be back here a lot and great to be with you all here today. If there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Yes, Robert.
What do you see as necessary for the amount of attorneys in the Attorney General's office? It seems, what do we have right now, 100 plus?
The Attorney General has a staff of 150 people, 82 of which are attorneys in normal times. The budget of the Attorney General's office is, in normal times, $29 million. The state budget, and that's a whole separate issue, Senator Barrington knows that, we are going to face very serious budgetary issues in the coming years. When the stimulus money is no longer here, and that's a whole separate discussion, and the rainy day money, when the rainy day money runs out, our state budget is going to go from $7.2 billion down to in the $5 billion range. Right now, there are between 60 and 65 lawyers within the Attorney General's office. We are going to have to do more with less. Ultimately, the job of the Attorney General is to fight for the people of the state, to enforce the law fairly and honestly. Every issue that crosses the desk of state government crosses the Attorney General's desk. The Attorney General writes opinions interpreting state law, and the opinion of the Attorney General carries the full force and effect of law until the court says otherwise. It's a critically important position. I believe my background, both on the criminal prosecution side and in my private law practice, I've represented primarily small businesses, which are the backbone of this state's economy. I've fought the battles in state and federal court. These issues, whether it's locking up and methamphetamine drug dealers, finding and prosecuting child predators who threaten our young kids. My wife Carrie and I have 3 young kids. Nothing more important to me than the safety of our kids and our grandkids. We're fighting Washington, D.C., fighting these very important fundamental battles that really, the future of freedom really is in the balance. And so I think that my experience fighting these battles in court, which is where the battles will be fought, is critically important. It's critically important to have an Attorney General who can day one show up in the courtroom, know where the door is, and fight the battles for the people of the state.
Let me ask you a follow-up then. Why has it been necessary for our present Attorney General to spend millions of dollars on outside attorneys if we have that kind of force within the AG's office?
Robert asked the question about outside counsel. It's something that needs to be entirely reworked. We need an open and transparent process for hiring outside counsel. That doesn't exist today. In the last 3 years, we've paid outside counsel $25 million just in hourly fees. You hear about the lawsuit in eastern Oklahoma with the poultry case. And there are strong feelings on both sides of that issue. Regardless of what your feelings are, that case is on a 50% contingency fee. If the state prevails, or would have prevailed in that case, the state sued for $630 million. A private firm would have gotten $315 million. It's wrong, it's immoral, and the state should not be entering into contracts like that. And under my watch, they won't. We'll have an open and transparent, competitive bidding process. It's just good government. Any other questions? Well, it's great to be with you all here today. I look forward to coming back to Comanche County. I'd be grateful for your vote, Ryan Leonard for Attorney General on July 27th. Thank you very much.